Okay, I think we can get started here. What is good, everybody? It is the Godfather of VR, the ageless one of the man, Lincoln Clay, and we are back on GT7. It's I think it's been a couple of weeks, and a lot of that was by design. As the title says, I returned my PlayStation Pro, and I made it a point to wait before I talk about this, because let me get to a part of this game where this music's not in the background. We are going to go with this. Select car from garage. And we are going to go with the Ford GT for this. And you can go with the softs, huh? Jeez, even that's loud. Well, here, I'll just turn it down to my headset a little bit. Okay, so the reason I decided to wait before I explained why I returned my PlayStation Pro is because of the console war and fanboying. When it comes to both Xbox and PlayStation, whenever one of them releases new hardware, especially a console, it becomes a polarizing topic where I guess a better way of putting it is, whenever one of them releases new hardware, that hardware becomes the new battleground, where one side fiercely defending the product and another side fiercely attacking the product. And during the time that I did have the Pro, the few streams that I did, there were a few people in the comments with less than flattering things to say. And in my opinion, they were fanboys because they fiercely defended the Pro while either saying some less than flattering things about me or I wouldn't exactly say they tried to discredit me, but in any case, so yeah, that was something I didn't want to deal with because the PlayStation Pro has been a really big topic since it came out, and it's still a hot topic now. I think because of, in my opinion, because of the inconsistencies of this console. It is still a hot topic.
Yeah.
Hey, how's it going? So, getting to why I returned the PlayStation Pro, I think I kind of have to go back to the beginning. When the PlayStation Pro was announced, I stood firm that I would not buy this console unless the reprojection was gone. I wanted native frame rates because that is the best way to eliminate reprojection, ghosting. The Meta Oculus headsets have their own version of reprojection called asynchronous space warp. And it's clear that when you turn off the asynchronous space warp and you have native frame rates, there's no ghosting. In the case of PSVR 2, in my opinion, was what I felt like I was dealing with wasn't ghosting. It seemed like outright blur. And sometimes it could be very distracting. I'm in the middle of a race trying to fight for position. I go around a corner, and if I take my eyes off of the track or the car that I'm trying to overtake, and I look into the distance or into the trees, buildings, and stuff like that, and I see blurriness, sometimes it was a little bit distracting, and it affected my racing, but that wasn't not to the point where I felt like it cost me a win or something like that, but it could still be distracting. So after it became clear that the PS5 Pro is basically an upscaling box with ray tracing added, it became obvious that the reprojection is still going to be there, especially with PSSR being a focal point of the PS5 Pro. So at that point, I already thought to myself that if you do decide to pick up the PS5 Pro, you will have to expect that the reprojection will still be there, and just hope that it's clear. So normally I wouldn't mention someone's name, but in this case I am going to mention someone's name, and that would be Frogboy 1X Gaming. When the PS5 Pro first came out, since I had my mind made up that I wasn't going to get one, I was going to wait for other YouTubers to give their opinion, and I was speaking mostly of YouTubers that I'm friends with, YouTubers that I trust, and Gamertag would be one of them. But he didn't get one at launch. I also thought that AJ of PSVR Underground would get one, but he didn't. I also thought the Jammy Hero would get one at launch, and he didn't either. He's electing to wait for the PS6. He just said that he just doesn't think it would be that big enough of a leap to justify it. So that brings us to Frogboy 1X. He tested the PS5 Pro, and in his video, he said it was cleaner, it was smoother, it was sharper, and most importantly, relative to PSVR 2, he said the blur was gone. So at that point, I'm thinking, okay, Now I think I'll get one, but at that point I had got caught by the FOMO. So by the time I made the decision to go ahead and grab a PS5 Pro, it was already 7 o'clock in the evening, and Best Buy closes at 9 o'clock. But now that I stop and think about it, I should have just went ahead and bought it from Walmart because they stay open later and it's closer to where I live. But in any case, I ended up buying it from Best Buy. I know why I bought it from Best Buy. It's because their return policy, Best Buy does not give you any shit. As long as all the stuff is there, they don't give you any shit. So I went ahead and picked it up from Best Buy, and I paid the entire $700 because I would not have been able to do a factory reset on my PS5 to take it to GameStop in time to trade it in. So my thinking was I'll just go ahead and buy the PS5 Pro outright, and if I end up liking it, then I'll try to find a buyer for my PS5. But if I end up not liking it, then I can just take it back to Best Buy and get a full refund. So I ended up picking it up from Best Buy, and to try to speed this story along, initially, and when I first initially saw all the games on the PS5 Pro, I'm going based off memory, and my initial reaction to GT7 on the PS5 Pro, I did agree that I thought it was a little bit cleaner. I thought it ran a little bit better. The one part I did not agree with Frogboy on was the blur. The reprojection was still there. And at times the reprojection wasn't that bad. At times it was horrible. And so I guess maybe it was placebo. I was trying to convince myself that the reprojection was improved, but it wasn't. The fact of the matter with reprojection is what it boils down to is the slower you move, the less prominent the reprojection is. If you're going pretty fast or you're moving your head around really fast, stuff like that, the reprojection becomes noticeable to the point of distracting. So then I go over to test some other games, Resident Evil and No Man's Sky, Resident Evil Village. So those games, I had not played those games in weeks, but I felt like I still had an image in my head how those games looked on the standard PS5. So when I'm looking at those games on the PS5 Pro, initially I felt like I saw an improvement with Resident Evil 4 Remake. It did run smooth. I felt like the picture looked cleaner. The reprojection was there, but it was minimal. And this game did get a pro patch. And fact of the matter is, it boiled down to the same thing. Resident Evil Remake is a slow moving game, so the reprojection wasn't really bad. It was tolerable. And so I'm thinking to myself, I'm going off of memory, off of games that I hadn't played in weeks. I need to be certain. So I plugged the PS5 back up, and I started going back and forth with all these games: GT7, Resident Evil Village, Resident Evil 4 Remake, No Man's Sky. And so Resident Evil Village was the game that, not Resident Evil Village, Resident Evil 4 Remake was the game that sealed the Pro's fate. Because when I booted up my PS5,
Old Darth said, "Hey Clay."
Old Darth, how you doing? So when I booted up the PS5 and took a look at the Resident Evil 4 Remake, the first thing I noticed was that same update file that was on the Pro was also on the PS5. So in this update was like a couple of gigs. So I'm thinking to myself, they must have made some improvements to the PS5 as well. So long and short of it is, the PS5 Pro supposedly already got the Pro patch for Resident Evil 4 Remake. Well, I go into the PS5 and I saw no difference. Resident Evil 4 Remake on the PS5 Pro got a Pro patch. And the exact same size of that file on the PS5 Pro was the exact same size of the file on the PS5. So again, when I'm going back and forth between the PS5 Pro and the PS5, I saw no difference in Resident Evil 4 Remake. And that pretty much sealed it. No Man's Sky, on the other hand, when I originally saw it on the Pro, it didn't look bad, but there was some aliasing there, and noticeable aliasing. And then I went back and took a look at it on my PC, and because I can play with the settings on PC, there was no aliasing. So it definitely looked better and ran better on my PC. But when I came back and looked at No Man's Sky on the Pro, and then I looked at it again on the PS5, the PS5 version looked horrible. I mean, the PS5, I was like, the first thing popped into my head is I don't remember the PS5 version looking this bad. So I wondered if they had pulled some bullshit and downgraded the PS5 version, because I mean, that shit was so horrible. I almost thought I was looking at the original PSVR 1. So, but in any case, so Resident Evil 4 Remake on the PS5 Pro and the PS5 looked the same. I couldn't really tell them apart. They both looked the same. They both ran the same. And then I was jumping back and forth on GT7 between the PS5 and the PS5 Pro. And the differences that I saw were so minimal that I'm asking myself, am I really seeing an improvement, or is it placebo?
Old Dart said, it seems to me that resolution of the PSVR 2 limits any visual improvements the Pro can offer.
I don't disagree with that, because so to work my way into responding to your comment, Old Darth. So at that point, when I saw no difference in Resident Evil 4 Remake, it was at that moment that I decided to go ahead and pack the PS5 Pro up and return it. And then relative to GT7, it hadn't gotten a Pro patch yet, and nobody knew when we were going to get it. All we knew was that a patch was coming, but nobody had an exact date. And at that point, I had this funny feeling that Sony was about to pull some scumbag shit, and I think they did. The PS5 Pro launched on November 7th. The Pro patch for GT7 came out November 21st, exactly 14 days from the day that the console launched, which would mean for those who hung on to the PS4 Pro, the PS5 Pro, waiting for that GT7 update on November 21st, that puts you exactly 14 days since the console launch and out of the return window with most retailers. So if I would have hung on to that PS5 Pro and waited for them to come out with that Pro patch on November 21st, it would have put me outside of the return window, and I would not have been able to return that PS5 Pro. I thought that was a scumbag move by Sony to wait 2 weeks after the console launches to give us a Pro patch. GT7 is Sony's flagship franchise. I think out of all the franchises that Sony has, Gran Turismo as a whole, I believe, has sold more copies than any other franchise in Sony's catalog. It is also the flagship game of PSVR 2. It is also a game on PSVR 2 that people showcase. Like, that's a game that when they say, hey, try this headset, a lot of them show people GT7. So in more than one way, GT7 is Sony's flagship franchise this generation. So with that being, and it's also on the console, it is also Sony's flagship multiplayer game. They don't have a lot of first-party multiplayer games, so GT7 is also the flagship multiplayer game. How in the hell is this game your flagship your flagship franchise and it is not ready to go on the launch day of the PS5 Pro. Especially when you're talking 8K, ray tracing, and all that other stuff. How is that not ready to go when it's your flagship franchise and presumably the game that you want to show everybody to showcase the improvements of PS5 Pro? So I think it was a deliberate move by Sony to wait exactly 14 days to release that patch, so people who hung on to the Pro waiting for that patch, it would put them outside of the 14-day return window. So that was something else that I kept in mind when I returned my Pro. Because I did not want to be stuck holding the bag if that patch comes out and the patch ends up being dog shit. So, what was your comment? It seems, again, old Darth, your comment was, seems to me that the resolution of the PS5 PSVR 2 limits any visual improvements the Pro can offer. So now, PSVR 2 included, it seems that the PS5 Pro is a mixed bag. People were saying that, you know, this is improved, but this is the compromise. This is the trade-off. And it seems to be a case-by-case basis. I'm hearing that some games look good and run really good, and the ray tracing is good. I'm hearing not so much with other games. So to me, that's too much of a crapshoot. It's too much rolling of the dice for me to go back and get the PS5 Pro at the moment. And then relative to GT7, from what I've saw from Digital Foundry videos and other videos, is when you turn on PSSR as well as ray tracing, it's noisy. There's artifacts moving around in various parts of the screen. And so some people decided that the game looks better when you turn the ray tracing in the PSSR off. That's weird. So, I mean, the one thing that's supposed to be the selling point of this console in some of the games have actually been a detriment to it. Now, PSVR 2, the PS5 Pro relative to PSVR 2, I've seen people say that it runs smoother, it's cleaner, but there's a but. People are saying that they are seeing artifacts like on the outside of the screen, the telemetries, your HUD. They're saying that it looks pixelated. Some people have reported seeing tearing within it. Some people have reported seeing a double image. Out of all the videos that I've seen, I can't remember the guy's name, but he had the most interesting take. His initial reaction was, it's cleaner, it's smoother, the blur is pretty much gone. And then as he was driving around the track and he started, you know, focusing in on things, he said he did notice with the other cars as he was passing the cars. He said that the front of the car and the bottom of the car, he was still seeing reprojection. He was either seeing blur or he was seeing artifacting underneath the car. So he had came to the conclusion that the reprojection was still there, but they moved it. Almost like so it almost sounded like a foveated rendering, where maybe there's a sweet spot and anything within that sweet spot is clear, and anything outside of it is, I don't know if I want to use downgraded, but anything outside of what I'm thinking is probably a foveated sweet spot is pixelated, still reprojected. And then I was watching parts of a video from Digital Foundry, and they were talking about reprojection. Not reprojection, but they were talking about the PS5 improvements. And the one word that they kept using was subtle. There's subtle improvements. Some people might not notice it. There's subtle improvements. And to Digital Foundry's credit, they are one of the people who did point out that with PSSR and ray tracing on, that it was noisy. They showed how taillights on a car was noisy, and it just looked like artifacts moving around inside the taillights, as well as the outside of the environment. And my thinking was, that is just too much of a mixed bag. That being said, the only way that I would get a PlayStation, I would go back and revisit the PlayStation Pro, is if I can get it and come out of pocket $300 or less. Now, they talk about the trade-in that GameStop has been offering for the PS5, and some people were exaggerating these trade-ins. Some people were saying that GameStop was giving $350 trade on the PS5. That is not the case. I went to the site myself, and it said for the PS5 disc version, they were giving I think they were giving up to $275 in-store credit, or I think they were giving like $240 cash. So at $275 up to, it didn't say, you know, $275 flat out. It said up to. So I already know what's going to happen. I take my PS5 to GameStop. They're going to start poking holes at it. Oh, we see a scuff here. We see a scratch there. There's dust here. You know, and then they beat me all the way down to like 200 or 225. I'm not going for that. So, but even if they did give me the full 275 in-store credit, I would still be I would still need $425 plus applicable taxes. So at this point, yeah, I would have to be in a position to I would have to come out of pocket $300 or less. So I'll say this, the way I'm feeling about the PS5 Pro from what I've been hearing post-patch, the PS5 Pro, in my opinion, is not worth me giving up my PS5 and only getting $225, $250 or something like that, and then I still got to come out of pocket $450. It has to be a situation where I come out of pocket $300 or less. So possibly, you know, I would say that if GameStop were to give me that full $275 and then maybe I come up with a couple of $100 to put with it.
Old Dart said, would have been happy if the Pro would have offered a native 90 FPS mode for GT7.
That is what I was looking for, Old Darth, because that would have been the surefire way to get rid of the reprojection. But the fact of the matter is, I've said this so many times, racing games in VR taxes the hardware. And in my opinion, the PS5 just does not have enough horsepower to run GT7 at a native frame rate, at a native 24p, whatever it is, and a native 90 frames per second. I mean, hell. You know, with my PC, I got it across the board, but I spent over $4,000 building that PC. My other PC in the bedroom can do 90 frames native. But that's got a 3080 Ti in it. I maintain my stance that I feel that the PS5 graphics card wise, is the equivalent of an RTX 2070. And I can tell you, I've got 4 PCs here, and my bottom PC has a 2070 in it. And I can tell you this right now, it does not have enough power to run my VR games at a native 4K frame rate. At a native 4K resolution in 90 frames per second native. It just doesn't have the power to do it. And I'm convinced that is the case with the PS5. It just doesn't have the horsepower to run GT7 at a native frame rate. I think that if GT7 was on PC, I think it would take, at the very least, I think it would probably take about, to get a native frame rate, at the very least, you would probably need a 3080 in my opinion. So yeah, no wonder, so it's no wonder the reprojection is there. It's just that, if the reprojection of the PSVR 2 was the equivalent of the asynchronous space warp of the Meta headsets, I would be okay with it.
That's why 1440p is the sweet spot for flat gaming.
I can agree with that. In the room here, I've got a 1440p LG monitor. The picture's not 4K sharp, but it is definitely clear. I can any game that I want to play, I can turn it up to ultra settings. And in a lot of cases, a lot of those games, I'm getting over 100 frames per second native. But once I cranked it up to 4K, not all of those games ran that high. Now I'm getting 70, 80 frames per second. If I crank it all the way up to ultra and with ray tracing on, then yeah, it taxes the shit out of the hardware. So yeah, I think 1440p is not a bad resolution at all. Hell, I was playing The Last of Us Part 1 on my PC, and yeah, I was running at 1440p. They look pretty damn good. So yeah, there you have it, folks. That's the story. So long and short of it is, I think the PS5 Pro is too much of a mixed bag for me to drop an entire $700 on it. I initially supported that. I felt like the PS5 Pro was worth the $700, but that was on the belief that just the raw horsepower alone would improve all games across the board. But now it's starting to look like a case-by-case basis. And
Dart said, yeah, was underwhelmed with the Pro reviews, so I picked up the Meta 3 Batman bundle instead.
Oh man, Batman VR is VR game of the year, hands down. I've already played through that game twice, and then I still do the challenges just to stay in shape. That's another reason why you guys haven't seen me stream that much lately, is because the Thrill of the Fight 2 is in early access on the Quest headsets. So I've been doing that because you can fight multiplayer now, PvP, on Thrill of the Fight 2. And for the most part, I've been having a good time. It is a workout, much more of a workout than Creed. So yeah. So that being said, I do not have immediate plans to get another PS5 Pro. At this point, I shouldn't jump the gun and say this, but I use my credit card to pay for everything. So I'm always building up reward points. And so every couple months I redeem those points, and I end up getting like $100 prepaid Visa. And then there's Christmas coming up, and I shouldn't jump the gun and say this, but my brother, he just he just either hands me cash or gives me some kind of prepaid Visa or something like that. So I would say between redeeming a prepaid Visa for my rewards points, along with something, along with the presumption that my brother might give me a prepaid credit card or cash, along with GameStop, if they were to still give me a full $275 in-store credit, that might be enough for me to think about getting a PlayStation Pro again. But one thing's for certain, I will not buy it and come out of pocket the full $700. The only way I would get a PlayStation 5 Pro again is if I plan to get rid of my PS5. I do not feel like the PS5 Pro, I'm not seeing enough improvement for me to feel like it's worth getting it and still keeping my PS5. The jungle ain't big enough for both of those consoles. One of them would have to go. So
Old Dart said, on the plus side, GT7 on a regular PS5 with PSVR 2 is an enjoyable experience.
Well, circling back to with me being on the standard PS5 here, so obviously they applied some kind of update to the standard PS5 because that file was 32 gigs. And my initial thought is you're not going to put a patch out, you're not going to put a file out that's 32 gigs for the standard PS5 and it not have any improvements, because the 5 cars that they gave us in that recent update, there's no way those 5 cars take up 32 gigs a file. So I'm thinking that yes, that this 32 gigs update, there must be some kind of improvement to the PS5 version as well. So I dove back into the PS5 version of GT7, and you do have the option, which here, let me turn on my headset. You do have the option to choose between prioritizing frame rate or ray tracing and resolution, which would be non-applicable to the PSVR 2 headset, because
said, my 7-year-old son just bought his PSVR 2 today. It's insane. I can't wait to play GT7 on it when he goes to bed, grinning squinting face. Old Dart said, at Runk still rides, enjoy.
Yeah, same here, Runkskill. I mean, for the sake of being transparent, if you're going to be booting up GT7 for the very first time, it may not initially look good, so you may have to play with the settings. You may have to turn down the HDR. You may have to turn down the brightness or something like that, because when I first booted it up for the first time, I do kind of remember seeing colors bleeding over each other. So yeah, you'll probably have to play with the settings. And then I think after that, if you can get past the reprojection, then yeah, you will have an enjoyable experience. So that's the biggest trade-off, is the reprojection. When you go around corners, you may you will see blur. It's just a matter of how bad you perceive the blur, whether it's minimal or to the point of distracting. But I think when all is said and done, you will enjoy the experience, because even with the reprojection of PS5 on PSVR 2.
Said, I run my PSVR 2 at around 70% brightness.
I think I run mine. I think I might run mine at about 50% darkness. Because when I had that thing, because I think it was like damn near at like 100% at default. And I mean, everything, because of the colors bleeding over each other, everything, the picture just looks smeared. So let's get ready to register for a race. Okay, entry period starts in 3 minutes. So yeah, the main purpose of this stream more so was to explain why I returned the PS5 Pro and why I waited so long to tell you guys.
Rides. Said, I set his to 70% brightness for Horizon.
Okay, cool. So set it to 70% for Horizon. Old Dart said, gotta fly, keep VRing.
Said, gotta fly, keep on VRing everyone.
All right, thank you so much, Old Dart, for popping in. Really appreciate it. I'm getting ready to get on the track here in a second. I do like this daily race. This is Circuit de la Sarthe without the chicane. So there's going to be some high speeds on the straights. And with this being a 5-lap race, let's see here. Is there a mandatory pit stop? Number of pit stops, 1. So yes, there is at least 1 pit stop mandatory. So I am going to roll the dice strategy wise. I'm going to do 1 lap and then I am going to come into the pits and change the tires, because I do not want to get caught up with a bunch of other cars fighting it out, because we know how dirty people race on this game. And so the best way to get a good finish on this game, in my opinion, is to try to avoid other cars, because you don't know if you're racing against somebody dirty or not. So that being said, with the strategy that I plan to execute, this could be a very boring looking race, because my intentions are to go into the pits, change tires, and when I get back out on the track, I am expecting to see an empty track, and I will gain places when other cars come in the pits themselves, because this is a 5-lap race, and I'm thinking other cars are probably going to wait until the 2nd or the 3rd lap to come into the pit. And then the other thing about racing, whether it's sim racing or real life racing, when you are battling another car for position, you lose time, because you guys are slowing down, fighting it out for position. You're not slowing it down per se from the standpoint of going out of your way to use the brakes, but I mean
illicit therapy. Said, yo
Illicit, what's up, dude? How you been, man? Been a while since I talked to you, man. Since hope all is good. So yeah, folks, this race coming up here, you guys may see a very boring race, but if my strategy works as planned, I am hoping to finish in the middle of the pack. All right, let's get in here, get some practice in, and let's officially qualify. All right, let's get the headset on, let's get going.
Illicit therapy. Said, I thought you sold the PS5 Pro.
No, I did not sell the Pro, Illicit. The bottom line is, at the time that I returned my Pro, I just did not see a big enough difference between the Pro and the PS5 relative to PSVR 2. And then the other thing is that I returned the Pro. I actually returned it 3 days after I bought it. And as I had explained earlier, I had to return it within the 14-day window, because Sony did something scummy like I suspected they would. They waited until the 14th day to release a Pro patch. And on the 14th day, that would put you out of the 14-day return window with retailers. So if I would have hung on to that PlayStation Pro and waited for them to release that Pro patch on the 21st, that would have put me outside of the return window, and I would not have been able to return that Pro. And if I would not have been happy with that Pro patch, I would have been stuck with that Pro. At that point now, I got 2 choices: either sell the Pro and take a loss, or sell my PS5 and try to minimize the damage of buying the Pro and hope that I can, get maximum return on the PS5. So I returned the Pro for a full refund, And right now, as I was saying earlier, to put it in a nutshell, the PS5 Pro right now seems to be too much of a mixed bag for me to go back and get one right now. The only way that I'll revisit getting a Pro is if I only have to come out of pocket $300. I would not spend the full $700 again for this console. That would mean, as I said again, I would have to be able to get maximum return off my PS5 and, you know, put a couple $100 with it. Then I would think about revisiting it. But right now, at this moment, I do not have any plans to revisit the PS5 Pro. So if you go into the settings, I'll show you guys now. So even though this is the PS5, you go into the options and you go to video output. Right there, you can prioritize ray tracing or you can prioritize frame rate. Now, the reprojection is still there. The only thing that I can say...
Illicit therapy. Said. Makes sense.
Yes,
I tried to tell people it's not worth it and too much money due for the upgrade. Illicit therapy. Said. I was called a hater.
And that's another reason, illicit therapy, that's another reason why I waited to let everybody know that I returned my Pro. I mean, I told everybody about it on Twitter because I had posted a picture when I first got the PS5 Pro. I would feel like a fraud if I left that picture up there and still let everybody think that I have the Pro. So at least on Twitter, I made the announcement that I returned the Pro and I took that picture down. Now over here on YouTube, what I had said, I said earlier at the beginning of this stream, when Microsoft and Sony come out with new hardware, especially a console, it becomes a polarizing topic. It becomes the talk of the town, and it brings out the haters and it brings out the fanboy. Like Austin Evans when he, you know, did his breakdown of the Xbox Series X. You know, the Xbox community was praising it, and the PlayStation community was attacking it. Now over here, it's the same thing with the PS5 Pro. The PlayStation people are strongly supporting the console and the or defending the console, however you choose to look at it. And the Xbox side are fiercely attacking this console. And so I felt like, you know, a couple of weeks ago, the PS5 Pro was still a super, super hot topic. And if I would have said that, if I would have told everybody back then that I got rid of that Pro, I would have expected the trolls to come into my comment section and start saying some less than flattering things, because that's exactly what happened when I did get the Pro. For the 3 days that I spent testing the Pro, there was a couple of trolls that left some less than flattering comments, and I blocked them. And I don't even like that I'm telling you guys this, because I wouldn't be surprised if one of the trolls was somebody I know. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and prioritize frame rate. And so relative to this latest patch, going back and forth between the prioritizing ray tracing and resolution, as I've said before, ray tracing doesn't work in VR. So basically, long and short of it is, visually, I saw no difference between the two modes. They looked the same to me. The only thing that I can say that I probably noticed was that when I prioritized frame rates, it probably ran a little bit smoother. But visually, I saw absolutely no difference. The reprojection is still there. So I feel like this 32 gig patch that they gave the PS5 is virtually useless. Oh my God! They did something to this game, y'all. This shit looks blurry. That shit straight ahead where that lighted overpass is, straight ahead, that shit looks blurry. Shit, I can't.
Illicit therapy. Said. The haters are always people you know. BTW, the patch caters to the pros, so PS5 standard takes the bloat.
Yeah, you got that right. Hell no, it still looks blurry. All right, now that I got the headset position, it's still blurry though. Oh my God, and that reprojection. Oof. I'm not liking what I'm seeing.
Cars uncovered. Said. Just picked up a PS5 Pro today. Definitely a noticeable difference.
It probably...
Much less blur. I booted it back up on my regular PS5 and could notice the blur immediately.
Yeah, this shit is blurry. I do not remember the original PS5 looking like this. So I'm starting to ask the question with the tinfoil hat. Did Sony did they downgrade the PS5 version to make the PS5 Pro version look better? Because I questioned that with No Man's Sky. The PS5 version of No Man's Sky looks like dog shit on PSVR 2. But the PS5, the Pro version that I saw when I had the Pro, it looked noticeably better, but it looked like, to me, it looked like what the PS5 used to look like. So yeah, I'm daring to ask the question: did Sony do some scummy shit and downgrade some of these PS5 versions of games in order to make the Pro look better, to make it look more appealing? Because I do not remember this game looking this blurry. I mean, this shit is blurry in the background. And then when you're going around corners, this reprojection was not good.
Cars uncovered. Said. I doubt it. I was playing this morning before the Pro and noticed no difference. Then loaded on the Pro and it was much cleaner.
No. What I'm trying to say is that there's no doubt in my mind that the Pro looks cleaner. However, there is a trade-off. For starters, like for instance, this HUD that I'm looking at right here, with the brake bias and the car diagram and all that kind of stuff. What I've been hearing about the PlayStation Pro is that all of that stuff that I'm looking at right here was like all pixelated and and reproject it that you can see double images of it.
Illicit Therapy said, I don't think it was intentional but optimization to the engine's base code.
It probably wasn't, but I can tell you right now, I just do not recall the PS5 version of GT7 looking like this. But on the other hand, I do know that they have been playing around with the assets of this game, because there are times where the game will get an update.
Uncovered said, yup, I get tearing on that in my car on the Pro.
Yeah, so that's the trade-off that I've been hearing about. Shit, I was going to say something about I was saying that I believe that Polyphony has been moving assets around with this game. So, like, for instance, they'll do an update, and then I'll come back and play the game, and the image would be clear, but I'm seeing more pop-ins. The pop-ins are more frequent, and it's happening at a closer distance. Then the next time they do an update, the game doesn't look so sharp visually, but the pop-ins are less apparent. It happens further in the distance, and it doesn't happen as often. So what I'm trying to say is I think Polyphony Digital, at least with the PS5, have already squeezed every drop of resources out of this console. And so in an effort to try to make the games look better and run better, I think they keep playing around and trying to find that common ground. And both sides, in my opinion, end up suffering for it. It is like just right there, I just saw pop-ins behind those trees. Yeah, look, holy shit, those pop-ins in the distance. Hell, even some of these gates off to the side, even those are starting to pop up at the last second. Holy shit. Oh, right there. That gate right there, it just popped in like a couple of seconds ago. Yeesh. I think my brother was right. One time, my brother's a mechanic, and one time he told me, he said, "There's no replacement for displacement," meaning that there's no replacement for raw horsepower. So, I do not think that they can get any more out of this console. Oh, and when I get done with this race, I want to say something about PSSR and what people are saying about the problems with PSSR right now, and that Sony will fix it in the coming weeks and yada, yada, yada. I'm going to tell you why I think that possibly will not happen. But this race is about to start, and I don't want to try to talk about it during a race, because I am going to try to win this race. Look at shit. Look how many people are using Ford GTs. Holy shit.
Cars Uncovered said, I think we'll get future updates on the Pro to enhance the VR. That was only the first patch.
Okay, but I'm going to give you my opinion here shortly why I think that might not work. You know, after this race. So if you can stick around after this race, I'm going to tell you why I think some of these future updates might not work.
Cars Uncovered said, "Sure, good luck."
Thanks. Oh my God, I got hit with a penalty. Oh, that penalty. They made me serve that penalty. But the car in front of me got a 4-second penalty. Oh my God, again. Jeez, I got hit with another penalty. Damn, seemed like it shouldn't take that damn long to get up there. Oh my God, another penalty. Yeah, in addition to the blur, it's kind of hard to see the numbers on the brake markers until I get right up on them. I forgot, no chicane. So I lost time there. Yeah, that pop-in is horrible. Like, I'm seeing pop-ins all over the place. Yeah, some parts of the track I'm just not seeing until the last second. Like right there, I just saw that curve. So yeah, whew. And actually, even though they look pixelated, I can actually see some cars up ahead. So if they keep fighting it out, I'll have a chance to catch up to them. Oh shit. Tires are half gone already. I mean, I wouldn't have taken him anyway, but it's still would have been a consolation prize to say that I had a crack at him. But the bottom line is, two things killed me this race. One is I didn't qualify, so I automatically started at the back of the pack, and then the two penalties killed me. Okay, so Cars Uncovered, if you are still here. Who is that? Let's see who this is. Yeah, OnlyFans chick. They must really think it's some thirsty people out here. Okay, so Cars Uncovered, if you're still watching. The reason why I think that even with all these updates coming up, the reason why it may not get fixed, the PSSR issue may not get fixed, is because Sony is a hardware company, whereas Microsoft is a software company. Any issues now, Microsoft, one of the bad things about Microsoft is a lot of stuff they release is broken, especially with Windows. But they do fix it over time, which can take years through update after update after update. In the case of Sony, in case of the Pro relative to PSSR, if these issues with PSSR are hardware related, they won't get fixed until the next iteration of the console comes out. If the issues are software related, then yes, it over time they will fix it with updates. Now, using the hardware issue as an example, PS3 for example, PS3 versus Xbox 360. A lot of people, all in all, felt like the PS3 was the better console, but it was missing the party chat. What the PS3 had, it had in-game voice chat. And it also had a dashboard video chat. So, if you wanted to talk to your friends by way of video chat at the dashboard, I think they had to have a camera. If they didn't have a camera, you wouldn't be able to participate in the chats. If you wanted to do the voice chat thing, everybody had to have that same game. So let's say we wanted to do in-game voice chat. Well, there's no party chat like the Xbox had. So, for instance, we all might have to pop in a Call of Duty game and then meet up in a lobby and get on the same team so we can have an in-game chat and then we can talk whatever. Xbox had the party chat, which once you go into a party, that party works regardless of whether you're at the dashboard or regardless of what game you're playing. And so people were asking for that with PS3. And a scummy thing that I thought Sony was doing is they were teasing people. Every time there was an update coming out for the PS3, they would make these huge announcements that, stability fixes this, we fixed that, we, improve this, we improve that. But nowhere that they ever said that the console would get party chat. And people kept asking over and over again, when are we going to get party chat? When are we going to get party chat? And Sony never answered them. When the PS4 came out, the PS4 did have party chat. And I read in an article, Sony had finally admitted that the PS3 did not have party chat because the hardware made it physically impossible for them to implement a party chat. So they were not able to fix that issue until the PS4 came out. Something else that Sony tried that didn't work. The PlayStation Vita, which I have one. My reasoning for buying a PlayStation Vita, Sony killed it. Sony basically tried to implement what you could probably say was the first iteration of a crossplay. So, for instance, I bought a PlayStation Vita. What they did was try to allow people to play together online. They tried to allow PlayStation Vita people to play with or against PS4 people. And the internet issues were just horrible. I mean, the latency was so bad, it seemed like MLB The Show was running at like 4 frames per second on the PlayStation Vita. So Sony quietly removed the ability to play online between consoles and the Vita. Sony quietly removed it and never said anything. So the next year I got screwed. They advertised MLB The Show for the Vita. And they talked about online this and online that. So I'm thinking that they resolved the latency issues. Well, I go by MLB The Show. There is no online PvP. What the online was the schedule. The only thing I got online was the baseball team that I was using. I got their actual schedule online. So if a game got postponed or moved to another date or something like that, the online part of the Vita would update that, but online PvP was gone. Sony removed it. But the way they advertise it, online this, online that, they advertise it as if you could still play online between consoles and the Vita, and they removed it. So that was another scumbag move that Sony made. They'll do shit, they'll remove shit and not tell you about it, and lead you to believe that it's still there. So the one reason why I bought a PlayStation Vita, they removed it, and that was the ability to play online against consoles, because my thinking was that I would take the Vita on the go with me, and if I got somewhere, like I go over to a friend's house that's got internet, I would patch into their Wi-Fi and play against console people from wherever I was at, doing it on the move. But Sony removed it because the latency was horrible. It just didn't work. And I can tell you this, with PSSR, Sony will try to patch it. But I promise you, if they cannot fix it, they are not going to tell you. It'll just be something where the subject just won't come up again until the PS6 comes out. Then they'll talk about how they improved PSSR and yada, yada, yada. So one thing that, going all the way back to the PS3, one thing that Sony is not is transparent. With them, you definitely have to read between the lines. Hell, even with PSVR 2, they were disingenuous. They showed all these trailers that were in 4K. And the first time I put the headset on, like Horizon Call of the Mountain and GT7 was so blurry. I was like, man, what the hell is this shit? And to get it to a playable state, I had to watch video after video saying, turn this down, turn the brightness down, do this, adjust your IPD adjustments, along with numerous patches that Polyphony Digital and Firesprite put out over the coming weeks to make it look halfway presentable. So yeah, not trying to trash on Sony, just being honest that that there is the possibility that if PSSR is hardware based and the problems are hardware related, it will not get fixed until the PS6 comes out. But again, if it's software related, they probably could fix it with updates, but who knows how long it'll take. Then you also got a case-by-case basis where some of the developers may not opt, opt to give a game a pro patch. They may try to do it, and it may be poorly optimized, because I have heard that a couple of these games were not well optimized for the pro. So to me, it's too much like playing a game of roulette to me. So entry period over. All right then. Well, I'm not going to wait for another race, because that race honestly was very difficult. And I'm being honest when I tell you, I do not remember GT7 looking this blurry on PSVR 2. The last time it looked like this was when it first launched, and it did not look good when it first launched. This to me did not look good. It was blurry, and the reprojection was noticeable. But that particular race, I know the track. I've run that track so many times on a variety of different games. I knew exactly where my points were. I knew exactly where to brake at. I knew exactly where to accelerate at. And I knew exactly which angle to approach these corners. So in some sense, I was almost running that race blind, because I could not see the brake markers until the last second. I couldn't see, I would see the brake marker, but because of how blurry it was, I couldn't make out whether the brake marker was 300 meters, 200 meters, or 100 meters until I got right up on it. So there was instances where I would normally brake at 200 meters, but I broke at 300 meters, because if you miss your brake marker, you're gonna fly off the track. So that race, I kind of played it safe, because I could not see the track as sharply as I would like. And that was also a reason why I felt like I got a couple of those penalties, because I tried to push that car to the absolute edge and carry speed around the corners, and it caused me to go wide and get penalties. So So I guess for those that say that, you spent $4,000 on a PC, yada, 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 relative to VR, you will see a noticeable improvement over PSVR 2. Because I'm trying to avoid saying it, but I can't get it out of my head. I'm wondering if Sony downgraded the PS5 version of this one in order to make the PS5 Pro look more appealing. I just do not recall the last time I played GT7 on the PS5 was the day that I returned my Pro to Best Buy. I returned it. I came home. I jumped back on the PS5, and I just did not see a difference. And I don't mean that in a bad way. The best way to put it is both of them looked decent at the time. I just could not tell them apart. And now that this patch has come out, I don't know how far forward that the patch moved the PS5 Pro, but I'm feeling like this patch either stagnated or made the PS5 go backwards. I just do not recall the picture being that blurry since the console first came out. So, I don't know. On the playback, I do expect one or two trolls to come into the comment section and tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, yada, yada, yada. So, I mean, it happened. It happened before. I don't see why it won't stop, why it wouldn't happen this time. Because, I mean, it'd be the same way if I was on the Xbox Series X. If I would have poked holes in that console, the Defense Force would have came, you know, and you stupid, you don't know this, you know, yada, yada. So, I think that I think I'm going to get ready to hang it up right there, and I don't know. I feel like I'm at this moment I want to plan on getting up in the morning and doing a race on Le Mans Ultimate. And on my MetaQuest Pro, along with the OpenXR toolkit and a couple of other things that I do, the picture is just incredibly sharp. It is razor sharp. Yeah, just oof, 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 oof. So, yeah, I'm still trying to find words for what I just saw that race. It just did not look very good. I saw enough to get by. But nah, for the most part, I was not a fan of what I saw. So I'm gonna go ahead and end it there, folks. Sorry I couldn't be a little more upbeat, but I'm being honest, telling you guys what I saw through the PS5. It just did not look that good. So I guess either I'll have to accept what I'm seeing or decide whether or not I'm going to revisit the Pro. And, I told you guys how I feel about getting the Pro again. I will not spend the full $700 again for it. If I get it, you know, I would trade in my PS5 and add some money with it. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Really appreciate it. I hope that you will join me in the morning for Le Mans Ultimate. I am planning to do a race at Circuit of the Americas. It is a mixed class race, so I will be in there with hypercars and P2 cars, whatnot. And I guess when I see you guys on Le Mans Ultimate, I guess I'll talk a little bit about the upcoming GT3 DLC for Le Mans Ultimate.
Midlife Eckett said, good night.
Hey, thanks for popping in, Midlight. I really appreciate it. So yeah, I hope no one was offended by my lack of praise for what I saw visually. So all right, folks, we'll see you soon, and until then, have a good Thanksgiving. Make sure you watch the Detroit Lions tomorrow. Oh, you know what? Before I go, let me show you guys something that I ordered. Some Detroit Lions apparel. That is a hoodie I bought. Oh my God. I have to get up and show it to you guys again. So yeah, you guys can't see it. I gotta show it to you again. Okay, so all right there, you might be able to see the full picture right there. So that is a hoodie I bought, and it has a picture of Brian Branch, the safety for the Detroit Lions, when they played against the Green Bay Packers earlier this season. He was hit with a personal foul penalty for helmet-to-helmet contact, and then a couple of minutes after they hit him with that personal foul penalty, they decided to eject him, and he was trying to plead his case, and they told him, "You're gone." So as he was walking off the field, he gave the Green Bay crowd the double bird. So this company called Made in Detroit made t-shirts and hoodies and stuff out of it, so I picked up one. So all right, now I'm done yakking, and I'll see you guys hopefully see you guys in the morning. Until then, you all know the line: Wakanda forever, long live the king, and deuces.